Welcome everybody to another episode of the Titan Builders Business Builders podcast. And it's the second one today. And I'm so excited to have Chi and Mike as our guests. And they are the founders.
And it's the second one today.
They are the
And
founders
I'm so
of
excited
hold
to
on.
have Chi
Before
and Mike as our
I always
guests.
have this.
And
I'm always like hearing myself again. Thank you guys for coming on. Chi and Mike, founders of Dumpling Dudez, and Dumpling Dudez is a pop and pop startup. Now, first question really, what is exactly a pop and pop startup?
Ali, take it away, Pop.
So, not a lot of people say it. So we're hoping that if you hear it, you will start using it and you become a trend, and then people will start talking more about it.
Right.
So the term we use in US a lot is mom and pop. A lot of people say it's a mom and pop startup. I mean, it's like a small business
That's started by a couple, typically. So a mom and pop is typically like, it's kind of like it's a colloquial for a married woman and man that are together that start a business.
It's usually like a small business, very involved in the community, and people know then about it. Obviously, we're not mom and pop, so we are a pop and pop. But we did meet a lot of other mom and pop,
exactly.
pop and pop startups.
Yeah, especially since we started with Dumpling Dudez. Yeah,
that's actually very clever, and honestly, I didn't think about that. Of course, like I'm from Belgium, so in my mind it was like like a pop-up startup or something, but it's really
I got you.
Oh, right,
like pop-up.
Yeah. You guys being husbands and being really into this business as a startup. So when did it all start? Because there's a whole story behind this, and you guys told me that you're really big on the storytelling for a business, how important and how impactful this can be. So get us or guide us through the story of Dumpling Dudez.
Sure. I'll go and start, and then you can tell.
Yeah,
let me do that. All right. So for us being a pop and pop and being together, we've been together for 15 years. We used to be in oil and gas, and we worked as engineers for a while. Chi was 15 years in oil and gas and eventually became a director of marketing for a services company here in Houston, Texas. And I myself worked as an engineer for a number of years in industry in oil and gas as well. So I would say about 2018, we decided that we didn't really want to work in that industry anymore. And she's going to talk a little bit more on why and his experience and why we did that. But I'll give you kind of a timeline. So 2018, we decided to do it. 2019, we took the jump. We got married in 2019. And we took our honeymoon. And then we got back and we started Dumpling Dudez pretty quick after that. And we've been going around since April 2019 is our Founders Day, April 1st. We started out by teaching classes here, and right behind us actually is our table we teach classes at in person. And then of course the pandemic hit and we shut down and had to pivot, and we'll talk about that as well too. But now we're back to in person and virtual, and all kinds of different stuff is going on now, and happy to talk about that as well. But that's kind of a brief introduction of where we came from to who we are now, and she's going to talk a little more about why. What's our why?
So there's a book, and I think you haven't read it yet. Highly recommend it. It's called Start With Why. I think anybody know about that. So I read that while I was working in a corporation, and it really resonated with me. And I trying to figure out what's my own why. And then the moment I discovered the why is right before, maybe like a year, 2 years before we start. At the time, I was director of marketing. I was a senior engineer. We have a very, very comfortable living. We rent a beach house in LA, California. And then fabulous beach house, 4-story tall balcony. So I would take like pictures, selfie in the morning and say, living our best life, right? Living the American dream. But in reality, I will walk over to the beach, which is like a block away, with my coffee every single morning. I would just cry. I was so miserable. I was so trying to look so happy on the outside, but I was just very, very depressed, just not in a very, very good, happy place. And then I had a lot of shame in myself. I feel like, how come I look so successful on the outside, but I am so miserable? I must not be a grateful person. I should stick around with the job so I can be happy. But I was just very, very miserable trying to find myself. So when we got back from the vacation, I told to Mike, I say, are you okay if we quit our job and then start brand new and trying to find happiness and find joy in our life again? and hopefully to bring other people joy. And that's how.
At that point, I really had no idea that he was really feeling all of that. I thought it was just pressures of being a director at an oil and gas company, really. And so I figured that was all it was. And so when he asked me, I was actually at a point in my life where I was kind of like, I could do something different. I could really look for a change. And so I was like, hell yeah, let's do this. Let's jump out. Let's start this new thing. And he was like, okay, well, let's do some financial planning first, but let's do it. So, but that was pretty much the conversation. It was that short, really. He's like, do you want to do it? And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So yeah,
that's when we kind of look back in our life to figure out. I try to figure out what are my happiest moment in life. And it's always about hanging out with people, hanging out with the people we love, we care, and a lot of time we do dumpling making events for those kind of situations, and then just making the dumpling is. Oh, of course, it's delicious, but the making dumpling part with other people always bring us together.
That's what we want to try and capture. Yeah.
So we want to find that joy in life by doing that, and also by sharing that with our community in Houston, and hoping people will enjoy it, and also then they will keep on doing that with their friends and family, because after they go through our class, they will learn how to make dumplings themselves.
There's a saying, you have to give it away to keep it. And I think this really kind of goes with that. It's that feeling you want to try and give to people. So by teaching them an experience and teaching them a lesson, hopefully they can give that away so they can keep that joy and keep that passing in. It's kind of that pay it forward kind of thing. So that's our why. That's why we want to do this, because we didn't feel like that was what we were getting in our previous incarnations of our jobs.
That's awesome, actually. And it makes me think that, so you didn't just start a business around selling dumplings, but it's actually an experience-based business, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're selling experiences, and it happens to be around dumplings.
Yeah,
exactly. You hit it right on the head. That's it exactly.
And that's amazing. So, and getting that as your why, having that experience with other people is really important for you guys. So, would you say that the dumpling side is just an accident, where it could also have been any other kind of experience that you guys so enjoy sharing with other people, that it could have been wedding dudes or whatever it is?
I think that's a very, very true statement. When we look at our why and we look at what brought us together and what brought us joy together was dumplings. And just like you said, it could have been any kind of experience, really. The reason why dumplings for us is because when I first met his friends, we had a dumpling making party, and it was the coolest thing I had seen. The closest thing that I had to that was making candy with my family as a kid growing up, like fudge and divinity and things. But this was different, and so we did it with my friends next week. And so dumplings kind of became that vehicle. People could bring recipes and share recipes, and it just became this kind of food fellowship and fun. And that's really what people are looking for, especially after through a pandemic. They want that cornerstone of food fellowship and fun. And so we tried to provide that.
But if you look at our mission statement, there's actually no dumplings in there. It's actually creating the most fun and unique experiences. So anything that's fun and unique, and we feel like it could potentially be within our business model. We just so happen to pick dumpling in the moment.
Yeah.
So and what a time to start a business, of course. Like once the pandemic hit, what were we thinking? Like, oh, whoops! Like all the experiences that we did, we cannot do that anymore. Like how did you went through that kind of period?
So I'll give you a little backstory on that. We rent a commercial kitchen 2 days a week, and that's where we do all of our production. And we had a small team of so it's us two, and I think at that point, maybe three people that were working with us. I say full time, those 2 days a week. Yeah. But we were working on kind of making our experiences bigger. We were doing corporate team building events, and we're actually going to sell some dumplings at a fair. And here there's a big rodeo. And when the rodeo shuts down, we know everything in the city is going to shut down. So at that point, we heard it on the radio as we were in production that day with our team. And we were like, okay, guys, let's shut it down today and try and figure out what we're going to do. We went to our followers and on Instagram at the time, when we said, hey, we've got a lot of dumplings. We really just don't want them to sit around. Does anybody interested in buying them? And we ended up selling like 60 dozen that first week and 50,000 dumplings over 2020. And so we just really pivoted and tried to change our model. We changed it from a dumpling eating or a dumpling making experience to a dumpling eating experience. So the whole experience we tried to tailor to be, pandemic friendly. And I mean, you can talk about all the fun stuff we did. Like people would come pick up dumplings with their dogs and cats, and it was it was a lot of fun.
Right. I still remember when they shut down rodeo in Houston, and we feel very, very defeated. We're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're going to quit now. It's only been 6 months.
Right.
And then and also that we're trying to figure out if we're going to sell frozen dumpling, how do we stay with our mission, right? Because our mission is to create the most fun and unique experiences, right? So we're trying to put our hats back on, trying to create a product that's fun and unique. So we both used to be engineers. So we actually figure out, we find a issue, not really like an issue, like a problem in the market is that a lot of people are intimidated making dumpling because you had to steam them, you had to pan fry them, you take a lot of work. So we thought, being engineer, what happens if we can make a dumpling that you can put it in the oven and you can bake it as easy as a pizza. If people can bake a pizza, they can bake the dumpling. So we created probably like the only ready-to-bake dumpling in the whole world during COVID. So all our dumplings are all different color and they all bakeable. You just put it in the oven, set a timer, and that's it.
Wow. So you really found like that corner in the market that nobody was actually doing anything with, and you jumped right into that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that made you go through the pandemic. But also I hear that you really asked your community about what to do, right? And you activated your community to get you through that period. And yeah, creating a bigger and bigger and bigger community around the experience, around the dumplings, around the baking, around the different types of dumplings. So would you say that it's your community that made sure that you were able to get through the pandemic unharmed and even bigger than that?
Absolutely. I mean, we could not have done it without without that community. Absolutely.
Yeah, we have when we first started doing the frozen dumpling line, we have friends buying, and our local news station, they have a show called Houston Live. They did a segment on us just a couple months before, so they came back and do a second segment as to send a video to help us kind of reach out to even more people. People can come and just buy our dumpling, so we can we're able to survive during the COVID situation. Yeah. And then the most amazing part is at the beginning, like the first couple of weeks, people know we lost 7 jobs. We were going to become cash positive for the first time in our business. That kind of didn't happen. And then people know we'll struggle. And then people, when they can buy dumpling, a lot of people bought us frozen food. Somebody will give us frozen soup, frozen meal, frozen cake, just to make sure we'll survive. So like trying to support, but also give us other stuff. So our fridge was full of like cookies and stuff. It's just all from our Houston community. We have very, very good followers that we actually became friends now.
That's so awesome, yeah. And I think it's an important message to any business owner out there. If you're starting a business, would you agree that you're not only searching for your ideal customers or your niche or your avatar, however you want to call it, but you're actually searching and trying to build your community first of all, because it's through that community that you're able to really get that connection going.
Right.
Like, would you say your business would be different if you would have started just selling dumplings, trying to do that?
Yes,
absolutely. It'd be 100% different.
100%.
Yeah.
Let me give you I mean, we talk a lot about storytelling, right? So you know how Instagram, you can pick it's almost the end of the year now. People do the top 9 posts, your most popular 9 posts on Dumpling. We do ours every single year since we started. It's been 2 years. This will be the 3rd year since we did it. Yeah. When we pull our top 9, there's no dumplings.
Right.
On their pictures.
Yeah.
Every single story that people love is a story about us, story about our struggles, story about how we fail. get back out and work again. It's all story driven. So
Mhm.
I think because of people tell story, or any kind of business they tell story, not just how they become successful, but how they overcome the struggle, it's going to make an impact in the community, because not everybody just being successful all day. People struggle in life, and people
Mm.
work through life to get where they need to be. And then I think that's a very great part of just being real and telling the story from your heart help us a lot, and also by building the relationship with the community.
And I guess this also makes you truly unique, even within a business. I mean, if people see your success, I'm pretty sure that others will be inspired to do more or less the same what you guys are doing. But I think with telling your story and bringing that, even if you're starting to get more competitors in what you do, you're
Right.
still really, really, really unique, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And this is, again, really important. I mean, this is also what we are telling others that are starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
Use your story to tell who you are and to try to resonate with people. Because if people need to decide between you or your competitor, they will buy from you only when they are resonating with you. So don't be afraid to tell your story. It's not always about the product or the service that you're delivering, right?
Right. When we talk to the other entrepreneurs, the number one question people ask is, how do you tell your story? And the other one is, but I don't feel like I had any story to tell.
Right.
People always say that I don't feel like I had any story to tell. And my answer to that is always, have you had any challenges lately? Like if you like if you just deal with success and you don't even have to any challenges, then you probably don't need to tell your story. But whenever you have a challenges, there's something that bother you, you're running into problem, you have stories to tell. Anytime you have a struggle, you have a story to tell on how you overcome your struggle. So it's everywhere. You just look at yourself and see when you are unhappy, when you're happy. Any kind of emotion has a story behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say for Dumpling Dudes were the biggest challenges to overcome across these last couple of months and years? Besides pandemic.
Challenge.
Want me to go?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we used to work in corporation, it's very simple. You look at rate of return.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You see, this is the money I spend. This is how much money I will get back. And then if you need more money, you come with a new product, you work harder. Obviously, we quit our corporate job because we always focus on just making more money, working more. We don't see each other anymore. So when we started Dumpling Dude, we focus on rate of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You look at everything you do and you see, does this bring me joy in life? Does it bring me happiness? It's very, very easy to go back into that corporate mindset to say, how do we make more money? Of course, this is by working more, but then we go back to step one again in that old situation where we sound unhappy.
Right.
So every day we have to evaluate on how much work should we take in. Does this work still bring us joy? If it doesn't bring us joy, what can we do to make it enjoyable for us and enjoyable for our customer? Mm-hmm. So this rate of happiness, because it's so vague, it's the biggest challenge we have, because we're trying to constantly communicate with each other, trying to figure out what's the best for our work-life balance, what's the best for the lifestyle that we want, and how does that impact the business. And that changes all the time. So it's something that we very, very high on our priority, but we're constantly trying to pivot to figure out how to get there.
Right.
That's awesome, actually. I really haven't heard like return on happiness being used too much within businesses. So that's amazing. Yeah. And how I would think like if you are focusing on that, that becomes really fun to have a business, right?
Right. I mean, there's always going to be things that you don't want to do in life.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's always the things you have to do to make a business run. Mm-hmm. But if you continually work for a return on happiness, and I mean, and again, like happiness is so vague, you have to be able to define that for yourself. And whatever that looks like for you, it could be Some could be weighted more money side, some could be weighted more experiential side. Just really depends on how you define that personally. Don't let somebody else define that for you, right? I think that's the misconception a lot as we get into letting other people define our happiness for us. And so that quotient never quite works out, right? It never actually becomes one. And so you're always feeling like you're less than or missing something. And so if you can define your own happiness, working towards those goals do become fun at the end. It becomes easy to map those goals out. It becomes easy to kind of see that path. Yeah, there's struggles. We kind of liken entrepreneurship to walking through like a place that has been overgrown for many, 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 many years. You just keep trudging and trudging and trudging. And yeah, it's great. But when you look back, you see, oh my gosh, look at all that stuff I came through. How beautiful is that now? Right. And so it's that constant step by step, but following that heart path, that's really what you want to do. And that really gets you there.
To know that you have choices.
Yeah, absolutely. To know you have choices. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can decide. That's powerful.
That's super powerful.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm questioning then is, let's say that Dumpling Dudez keeps growing like it is right now.
Mhm.
Like, at what point would you decide, like, okay, if we grow even bigger, that return on happiness becomes difficult because it starts to be more corporate than you would want it to be?
Right.
What would you do then?
It's a really good question.
So
Yeah.
that's when couple things.
We've talked and thought about this. Yeah.
Right, because that is one of the challenges.
Yeah.
Right? As we get bigger, and then how big we want. Number one is like, how big do we want to get, and
Right.
number two is if we get bigger, how we're going to do it. I definitely think any kind of problem we run into is also an opportunity. Kind of like our business model is, and when anything that's an issue, people doing things, there's opportunity. So I think that will be opportunity to either bring somebody in that can do the stuff that doesn't bring us joy anymore. Right? That would be the easiest way to solve it. If it financially makes sense, bring somebody in, they get into do the stuff that tedious, you don't feel like doing, and you can still enjoy the fun part of whatever you do. But I definitely think if there is something that we don't like doing anymore as we get bigger, that means it usually is a process, right? It's this type of job, this process from a bit. That means there's an opportunity for us to improve that, to make it something that will be enjoyable. And we like it because it's a challenge for us being engineer. We like to pop and stop and see if it's something that we can tackle. If we can, then let's tackle it. If it's not, get somebody else to do it. If we can tackle something, make something easier, that's also something great you can share to other business that is growing the same way, because they're going to have the same pain. So sharing people our mistake and how to overcome mistake is actually a lot of joy for us. So like give us a lot of opportunity to make mistake and then share that to other people, so people have a chance not to do the same mistake as we do.
And I think having an engineering background really we're minded that way. Like you said, we like to solve problems. So when we meet, we get butted with something that we don't like. It's typically because it's inefficient for our standards, right? So we need to change it some way. And hopefully that can help somebody else along the way. That's the whole idea with this too, is to hopefully teach somebody how to do this if they want to know how to do this as well too. Run their own business, find their passions, things like that. So when it gets to be too big, what do? We just kind of remember what is our why. Always go back to the why we're doing something. It doesn't have to be a huge Dumpling Dude conglomerate for us to be as happy as we want to be, for us to spend our lives together. And that's really what we want to do.
And I know it sounds so easy.
I know, right?
Say all this stuff, but this was one of the biggest struggle, that we have about what happens when we get growth. So we got to kind of figure out to how we view it as a challenge, as an opportunity, is a big mindset change. So we got to kind of look at around and see, okay, whenever it's a problem, it's opportunity. Instead of just thinking that the future that you don't know usually bring you stress, so we're trying to avoid that and then kind of change our mindset too. So changing your mindset is also very important, how to turn something negative into positive.
Yeah, and I think there's a big truth in there where if you start your business coming from your why, your passion, and for you guys, what you already explained, if at a certain point, like Dumpling Dudez becomes so big that you want to get back to that why, because you have built your business or your brand around your story, pivoting to something else becomes almost easy if you want to do something else, because you're still connected to your why and to your purpose. And people will follow you guys because they know It's quality. It's you guys. It's your story, right?
Right.
That's what it's about.
It doesn't add an ease, but it also adds a bit of limitation to scaling as well, though. So I mean, we can only be us together. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. So that there is a scalability issue there, but I would say that's minimal compared to the happiness quotient that you get out of the work. I mean, that's really.
Would you agree then also that as many people would argue that you don't need to be super big within your business, like going away from the idea that if you're building a business you have to grow, of course you have to scale, but at a certain point, if it's at a certain point that you're happy with that, and then of course you can add something else to that, like you said, like maybe helping other entrepreneurs doing the same, which is then maybe another business that you can add to that. But it's not about the idea to keep growing, like the corporate mindset of getting always the return on investment all the time.
Right.
That mindset is important, I think, to have. Otherwise, you're getting stuck in what you have been doing in your corporate world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a different way to look at the business. And I think it's hard for us sometimes too, because our brain is still trained. Decades and decades of trained. This business gotta get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then with the same time we're saying like, okay, if getting bigger brings us joy, then that's fine. If not, then it's okay. It doesn't get any bigger, or we will pivot to do something else that's more meaningful to us.
Right.
But to put ourselves first, it's a really difficult practice. Like mental comforts and all that stuff. It's a new concept, I think, and I think people are struggle with it because people always think we're getting bigger and bigger. When yes, potentially it will happen, but
we always get that question: "What's next? What's next?" We're like, we're kind of cool where we are. We're doing
exactly. Yeah.
Keep doing it at least, fun.
Yeah, exactly. So it's and we're adjusting to the climate now, just like everybody else. I mean, everything's wide open again. So it's kind of half the way it was before and still half not, so it's definitely there's a lot of room to pivot still. So what is it going to be? Who knows? There's a wide variety of things that it could be, and
and we'll keep coming out with new experiences too. So
absolutely.
That kind of keep it fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. It needs to be fun, of course.
Right.
What would be the biggest advice that you could give somebody that is seeing this, that is hearing this, and that gets inspired to start their own business? And I would add to that, especially in our community.
Well, we always say start today. I mean, that's really, or yesterday, really. I mean, but start today, start small around you with people that whatever your craft is. You're better at talking about this than I am. We didn't talk about this in the beginning. Chi is our marketing guy. He comes from a big marketing background. I come from a process side. So I'm the one in the kitchen with the spreadsheets. Incremental changes. That's me. So Chi definitely is more versed in our marketing side.
I definitely think branding is probably the number one most important. Before we even quit our job, we kind of start the brand already. And then when you thinking about brand, don't think about it's just about logo, different color, different font, different graphic. Branding is people how you feel when they think about you, and start thinking about how do you want people to feel when they think about you, and then just go from there. Be yourself. Don't feel like you need to be somebody else. Don't feel like if you just started, don't feel like you had to make a lot of money right away. We make a fraction of the money we used to make back in corporation, but this is the happiest we ever been, right? Just be yourself, and then just because if you're trying to be somebody else, your social will be almost it's gonna be so hard to keep living two different lives. So we just be ourselves from day one. And one advice I would say is there are going to be people that love you and support you. That's your tribe, and cherish those people. And that's actually the most people will be like that. But there are going to be people that hate you and want to bring you down because of who you are. And then just let it go. I mean, there are people, they probably sag in a different way. We get all kind of negative message all the time, just being who we are. But we can also get the most wonderful messages.
But also say, don't stoop down, you know, always hold your head up high, always be proud of who you are, and find your tribe. Like you said earlier, find your tribe that helps you be proud of who you are and that you can feel a contribution to. And, you know, I'll give you an example. When we got married, it was a very, very small wedding. And it was very important to our business so that we could save money. We had 9 people there, including us, you know, and it was family members who, you know, got ordained to be there. You know, it was very, very, very small. And so we posted about that on LinkedIn, and it was centered around our business, around our Founders Day, about how we got started. And we got messages like, "You're sick," you know, telling Chi to go back to China, which he's not even from there. "I'm from Texas," or like, "Get out of Texas," you know, stuff like that. So, you know, you sit there and you're like, you know, should I say something? And, you know, sure enough, you never have to. There's always people that are going to be on your side. And sure enough, somebody stepped up and was like, "Hey, you know," and, you know, went off on them, and we didn't really have to. So just be proud of who you are, stay strong in what you believe in for yourself, and really follow your passions. And it is true. Things will open up for you in a way that you couldn't imagine.
And your struggle, both your success and your struggle, are going to inspire
all part of your story,
and they're going to inspire other people. When people say, "Okay, that message," we also got a really good one. This one guy on LinkedIn is not out of work. He said, "Thank you for sharing your story. I've been with my boyfriend for 10 years now. I'm going to go ahead and propose to him." And he proposed and he got married. Yeah. And another one is a mom, LGBTQ mom. They reached out to us and she said that it's nice to see how you guys quit your job and kind of grow over the last 2 years. You give me a hope that my son, who is a child, but still, my son will be able to find the love of his life and then to be successful, and people will look at them as just a normal couple. So we get a lot of very, very kind messages, but you never know how you're going to inspire other people. So just be yourself, be kind, pay forward, and then the karma will pay you back 100% of the time.
And I wanna add to that, and I wanna touch on a subject that you mentioned about the fact that people get inspired to see you guys as a couple, LGBTQ couple, being successful, quitting your job and starting your own business. Would you say it's something that within our community is still perceived as extra difficult to start your own business because we are LGBTQ? Or would it be more of a strength because we have that story already to tell?
It's an interesting question. I think that it's easier to start a business, but I think we're still in our community trepidatious about sharing our story so much. I think I'm not sure. I don't know. It's because we're coming from industries where, at least for us in my experience, and I'll only speak from my experience alone, coming from an industry where I felt like I needed to go back into the closet to succeed. I struggled with that living two personality thing for a couple of years in my industry. And that's really what was the most uncomfortable for me there. So, you know, what I want to say is, is doing this now and kind of coming back out again almost. I mean, not really, but, away from work and not having to, live that second life or all that. It's just so much easier to be that way. I think that, like Chi mentioned before, it's hard to live that dual personality life. And so I think it's more comfortable if we tell our stories, but it is kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off to tell your story. It is almost coming out again, almost, like, okay, now I'm a gay owner of a business, right? Not just a business owner. I have to tack that on there too. So the fact that we still have to kind of say that and tack those words onto things like that, it still almost carries a stigma, but I think it's easier. I don't know, that's a roundabout question. I apologize, but that's a hard one to answer. Do you want to try and answer?
Yeah. So I think it's a strength. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why, because I think, and this is for LGBTQ, for women, for minorities. I feel like a lot of minorities out there struggle. Right, they struggle with they see what it is like being privileged, they see what it's like not being privileged, and they see how life sometimes they had to work harder to get to where they need to be. Okay, and of course that's a huge disadvantage. I went through that my whole life. I had to work so much harder for people to get promoted. But the thing about it though is when you struggle, you get stronger, you get tougher. When you struggle, it give you your own superpower to overcome that struggle. Yeah. Okay. And I think when you finally find that superpower to overcome struggle, that is so much strength in that. There's so much strength in that in your storytelling. And there's also so much strength in that to give that message to other people that yes, I did struggle. Yes, people do look at me differently, but this is what I did to overcome, and then you can do it too.
Mhm.
And I think being in our community, we have that strength just because we struggle all the same way from being discriminated one way or other. And I think we can use that power to help people, not just in our community, but the other community as well. And also being LGBTQ community, we know what it feels like being discriminated. So we should work with the other community, right? We should know that if you are Asian Pacific region, you have your own community, you struggle the same way in US, Black Lives Matter. There could be these people that's disabled, like use that. You have a lot more compassion on the people, and use that compassion in your storytelling, and you like compassion to help others to build your brand. So even so you struggle, you are a lot more powerful than you think you are.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. And I think, this is the message that we need to bring more and more and more and more and more within our own community. Because what I hear, with Titanology, I'm trying to build a business community for LGBTQ plus people. And I come across a lot of people, and some of them really say, yeah, we already have enough challenges as being LGBTQ, so we don't need the extra challenge to build a business.
Right.
But I agree with you guys that it's actually a strength. And if you tap into that you're actually have an advantage of above everybody else, because you have that story to tell and you can resonate so much easier with other people around that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still like the idea within society, within the LGBTQ plus community, that building a business is like just drop it because we already have enough problems. What would you say to those people?
I would say, okay, so what I think about kind of the market right now, and this is just my non-marketing answer here, but I think that people are looking for people to invest to. They're looking for a community, just like entrepreneurs are looking for a community to support, to bring a product to. I think because the world is so flat now, with internet, with travel, with being able to be in anywhere in the world in the same day, right? People want something local. They want to be able to support that. So they're looking to help businesses grow. When we talk to people, they're like, they love supporting local. They love to be part of the community. They love to be part of the support because, like I said, they get to be a piece of your success and you get to share that. So I would say, bring your product to the market. There'll be a market there wanting to share and wanting to help you grow. And so if you have a product and a story to go along with that product, really, again, it's back to that story again. If you can tell that story about how, you're struggling to get through it and you're struggling to find a way to be part of a community, that's part of your story as well too. So we always go back to that. It's about just
but it's true.
Yeah.
It has never been any easier than now to start a business.
I agree. Yes.
Okay. You look at back then is what? You got to be on TV. You got to be on magazines, and it's really hard to get on TV. Really hard to get on magazines. Yeah. Now you have social media. You can create your brand instantly on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. There's like 100 social media channels out there. The platform is yours. Use the platform to tell people why and why you want to do it, and why your product is different, why your product is worth for people to try, or your solution. And there are going to be people they love what you do, and then you can start building your own tribe. But my advice is definitely go out and try it, because you don't want to regret 10 years from now, I didn't do this, right? Yes. And then that's never good. So just go out and try it. It's so cheap to try anything nowadays, and if it doesn't work, pivot. Like we had to pivot 2 or 3 times through our business already. It's only been 2.5 years in. So be open-minded, try it. If it's what you want to do, then go with it. Just don't have regret when you get older. Like, oh, I wish I would have done this when I was in my 20s, but only live once.
Exactly. We started this. We're 41 years old. We started this 2 years ago. And even I think the only thing that we ever say to ourselves is, man, I wish I started this 10 years ago. That's the only thing.
A lot more time to play with whatever you need to do.
Right. So definitely, even though we are, feel like we're in a really great place, we still wish we would have started earlier. I think that's part of it. We want to do this and then something else and then something else. So it's just kind of that mind. Once you get into one, you're like, oh, I could do something else too. I could do another one and another one. And Yeah.
And my other advice is don't do it for the money. Like if you want to, if your ultimate goal is to make the most money that you can, then maybe starting your business is not the best way. Maybe it's moving up the ladder at Google or like Amazon or something. Then find a way to make your money. But if you want to start something own, that means that you probably appreciate freedom. You appreciate to create something of your own, and let that be your driver and the money. Once you get all that stuff, the money will come.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Not
I couldn't
more
agree
free
more.
time, more freedom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
People are always like, you don't have any free time. I'm like, no, but we have more freedom.
That's the thing, right? Getting that life of freedom, financial freedom, location freedom, but more freedom in your mind as well.
Yes, exactly.
And
yes.
being able to do what you love to do. That's awesome.
It
So I always try to end with one question, and maybe we already touched a lot on this, but in your eyes for the next years, what does success mean for you guys?
You want me to go with this?
Go right ahead. Yeah, you can go
No, you
first.
can go first.
Go ahead.
Okay. No, this is a fun one because we talk a lot about what
We do.
success means for us, and I think it took me almost 20 years to change the definition of success. When I first started becoming engineer, it's totally like, I mean, of course I like engineering stuff, but it's a lot of money driven. I know engineer pays really good job. And then I become not very happy with engineering. I switch over to marketing. But money and title used to be number one for me. the better the title, the more money. And but ever since we started Dumpling Duo, right before we start, I think for us, success is really like a pie chart. But now instead of only 2 things, now it has like 10 different things, right? Of course, money and title still in there, but it's a lot smaller percentage, right? There's always going to be your health, right? Your relationship, right? And your community, all right? Your free time. Free time and freedom should be 2 different ones. Free time and freedoms. And then the one thing, mental health is also very important, and inner peace, which is kind of come along with mental health. Somehow, the older I get, the harder I find it is to reach inner peace. To have inner peace is a lot harder than making money and having a great title. And there's something that I'm still working on, and I think a very important piece of living a peaceful life.
I say for myself, I kind of agree with Chi. I used to chase how much money I could make and climbing corporate as well. I wasn't in corporate as long. I used to own my own business beforehand, worked as a home remodeling contractor before I went back to school, and tried the corporate route. It wasn't for me, clearly, back here now. But I would say success for me, the way that I measure it is how close I can help our clients or people that I help tutor or whatever it is that I'm working on in life, help them have the best experience to what they want. Why did they come to us in the first place? They wanted to celebrate something. But did we make that mark? Did we get that experience for them? Did they get to take that home and share it with somebody else? And I think really seeing that paying it forward and that sharing it, that really is the most important stuff for me. So if that's happening in my life, I know that I'm contributing and then I feel whole. That's really what my success is.
Very good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for your knowledge, the advice that you have shared with us, and your story. Thank you for that as well. Now, where can people find you if they want to know more?
So you can always find us at Dumpling Dudes with a Z. So it's Dumpling Dudes, Z instead of an S. There it is right there, dumplingdudes.com. You can find us there. We're on Instagram. You can email us, dumplingdudes@gmail.com, Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn as well.
Right.
What else? Anything else? No, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Those are the
I
places.
think your name, like Dumpling Dudes, is so unique that they won't
Thank you.
have any problem finding you anywhere.
Right. Yeah. Again, right? You want to be unique. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Nice. Thank you again very, very much, Chi and Mike, for coming on the podcast. And I wish you a lot of luck with the coming months and years with Dumpling Dudes and whatever you pivot into. And we will meet each other again soon. Thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for listening and for watching. And see you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.